Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Leslie Owens and I'm an incoming co-president for the Graduate Employees Organization. I'm also a member of the COVID-19 Impact Bargaining Team and a third-year PhD student in Writing Studies at UIUC. I'm here with my co-moderator, Carla Sanabria Velez, who is an officer at large with the Graduate Employees Organization. She's also a chairperson for the Cancel Debt People First Committee and a third-year student in the Masters of Teaching English as a Second Language program in the Linguistics Department. We are here today to talk about how the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign has abandoned grad workers this summer during an ongoing pandemic and economic downturn, and what the GEO demands that they do about it. The Graduate Employees Organization is a labor union on UIUC's campus that represents TAs and GAs. And if you're not aware of us, graduate TAs at the university teach 50% of the classes on UIUC's campus. So as a bit of contextual information, at UIUC, many graduate workers don't have summer funding. So this is a problem for grad workers every single semester. In a 2019 GEO survey, about 10% of our members reported using food assistance programs like SNAP, WIC, and food pantries to make sure that their stipends would see them throughout the entire year. Because of our chronically low wages, more than 70% of our members report not being able to regularly set aside money for savings, which means that by the time June, July, and August come around, they often don't have the money to get by over the summer. This is even more of a problem this year in the wake of COVID-19. Due to the ongoing pandemic and economic downturn, summer employment is very scarce for grad workers. Unemployment in the state of Illinois is at 7.1%, and workers all over the university report that on-campus and off-campus jobs are increasingly scarce. In COVID-19 impact bargaining, the Graduate Employees Organization is bargaining to get all grad workers funding for the summer. We know that many of our workers expect to be either completely unemployed or badly underemployed this summer, and many of them report not knowing how they're going to make ends meet. We are asking that the university provide all grad workers with access to funding through work. We would work and receive a stipend for the labor that we put toward the university, or we would be happy to receive a fellowship or grant just to ensure that we can all make rent and feed ourselves this summer. We know that about 2,590 grad workers applied for a recent emergency funds grant, which means that this is a massive problem, and thousands of us are in desperate need for money right now. The University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign must take responsibility for its workers by offering every single unemployed or underemployed grad worker work or a fellowship this summer. We know that the university has the money to do this. The University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign received $44.6 million in the higher education emergency relief funds from the federal government in 2021, in addition to the money that they received last year. UIUC is required to spend a minimum of $15.7 million of this funding on students, mainly in the form of emergency funding. However, so far, UIUC has only spent $1.8 million of that money on graduate students, the very same people that are teaching about 50% of classes on campus. I'll turn it over to Carla now to give us a little more contextualizing info.
Yes, thank you so much, Leslie. We want to clarify this is part of a larger trend of the university valuing its reserves or its money over the lives of grad workers who make this university run, 50% of the classes taught in these universities. The university started the pandemic with nearly $870 million in unrestricted reserves that are a direct result of how the university takes in more money than the amount of money that it spends. This is money from workers and students that should be given to workers and students, period. The university has not been transparent on the current status of this money and argues that they have to follow the Government Accounting Standards Board, which is a private sector organization that has dictated several neoliberal policies to follow at universities. The university's intention of operational excellence is nothing more than to increase the labor and exploitation of already precarious graduate workers in this campus. The university is a public institution. It has a responsibility to educate students, supports its communities, and keep workers alive and housed during a pandemic. This is the bare minimum of how do we start building a university that puts people first. Now we're going to hear from different graduate students that are going to talk about their experiences. And we're going to start with Angela Ting, who is part of the grievance committee, also a member of the Graduate Employees Organization. They is also part of the Fund UIPD and incoming communications committee co-chair. Go ahead, Angela.
Thanks, Carla. I currently have a wisdom tooth that's growing irregularly and must be extracted urgently. It's also impacting and loosening the tooth next to it, causing me pain when I chew on that side of my mouth, which my dentist says might also have to be extracted. This has been going on for about 2 or 3 months now. Additionally, my other wisdom teeth will also have to be extracted in the near future as a preventative measure against other teeth being impacted. Luckily, with the summer insurance coverage that the GEO has fought very hard to secure, I was able to minimize my costs, but it is still a large, unexpected medical expense. In addition to the cost of living expenses, such as rent and food that I have, living through the summer with no pay would be a severe blow to the savings that I had accrued over the past year of work that I had planned on setting aside for paying off my undergraduate student loans, of which around $11,000 is still outstanding. I'm having to ask my parents to help shoulder this financial burden while they're still also saddled with their own debts after helping me pay for my undergraduate education. If the university can spend over $8 million on its police force in 2020, a pandemic year when very few people were on campus, I believe and hope that it can also spare some funding for its overworked, precarious graduate workers this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Now we're going to turn it over to David Justice. David has participated in the Defund UIPD group, and he is also a rank and file member of the Graduate Employees Organization.
Hi, I'm a graduate worker in the religion department, and the summer funding is really important for me because the stipend that I receive as a graduate student is the primary source of income for my family, my wife and 2 kids. So we depend on that for basic necessities as well as SNAP benefits, and generally live paycheck to paycheck, so we aren't able to save any money for just getting by over the summer. When the summer comes, if I don't have funding from a stipend, I need to scramble to try and find part-time work or take out loans or try to stay afloat somehow financially, which is all stressful, difficult, and generally just disrupts our lives. Part-time work also leaves little or no time for us to continue with our graduate studies, which is what we're supposed to be focusing on, and generally just makes succeeding in the program more difficult. So summer funding is really essential for my family and I just to get by, and also important for our success as graduate students in our programs.
Thank you, David. Now I'm going to turn it over to Chibundo Egwatu. She is currently a member of the GEO's Black Caucus, and she is also a former co-president for the GEO.
Hi, my name is Chibundo Egwatu, and I am currently an outgoing officer in the union. I've been part of the union for about 5 years now. So I'm in a degree program where we're expected to do 12 months of field work. And a lot of the funding we get for this field work, which happens majority outside the country, is contingent upon travel. And a lot of the places that I and a lot of my colleagues are needing to travel to do our research currently have either travel bans or some really dubious travel situations. So we have a lot of people, not just myself, but almost every other sociocultural anthropologist in my department is going to be in Champaign-Urbana for this summer. So we're all facing a summer of under or no employment. So The reason I and my colleagues need summer funding is because we're putting undue burden on the public health and public security infrastructures of the Champaign-Urbana community. And it's the responsibility of the university to take care of their workers and not leave this burden on the Champaign County community. Thank you.
And finally, we'll turn it over to Marco Fonseca, who is a rank and file member of the Graduate Employees Organization.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm also a graduate student. I'm a PhD student in the linguistics department. And before joining the University of Illinois, I have received graduate stipends from institutions in Brazil and Japan, and they were all year round. In 2015, I was elated to know that I was accepted to the linguistics department to do my PhD. However, in my first weeks here at the university, I found out that I did not have funding guaranteed for the summer months. This might be common knowledge to domestic students, but someone like me who was not familiar with the American university system, that was a shock. And I have met other international students who were not aware of that either. As an international student, I am only allowed to have a 50% appointment in the fall and in the spring. I can only work outside of university if the job is closely related to my study field, and such restrictions impose great limitations to my funding opportunities. Although I have worked every summer here since I entered university, those were mostly underpaid hourly appointments. Besides such appointments, I also have to manage conducting my research throughout the summer. I was only able to cover healthcare, food, and rent throughout my summer months here in the United States, thanks to the kindness of friends and family. Worrying about summer funding every year has been a great burden not only to people close to me, but also to myself. I usually start looking for summer funding in the winter, which can be detrimental to my research and teaching. As a graduate student, I am still a student worker, and my priority should be to finalize my degree on time, and not to worry on how to survive semester by semester. Being an employee at a university, I should not need to depend on other people or go the extra mile to find some sort of funding to survive throughout the summer. The administration should make sure that all of the graduate employees of the university are able to receive summer employment. International students bring in a significant amount of money to the university in the United States, and it's time that they get treated fairly at the University of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your stories. To conclude, I just wanted to say that graduate workers work extremely hard for this institution. We care a lot about our students and very hard for them and for our research. We do not deserve to have to spend 3 months out of every year scraping to get by, depending on public assistance, depending on our communities, depending on friends and family who are also struggling, particularly during a pandemic. Thank you for watching, and thank you for advocating for grad workers and the funding that we need.